The night was dark, and the rain was heavy. Lightning flashed across the alien sky, and thunder rolled over the mountains. In the middle of the storm, a small village stood with glowing blue lights. But outside the walls of that village, a young alien girl sat alone. Her skin was pale with a soft shimmer, her legs weak and bound to a simple chair. She was not like the others. The people of her tribe passed by, their eyes cold, their words sharp. "She is useless," they whispered. "She cannot walk. She cannot fight. She is nothing." The girl lowered her head. Every word was like a blade cutting her heart. She had heard it all her life, and tonight was no different. They left her in the rain, abandoned once again. Her hands trembled as she tried to move her chair through the muddy ground. The wheels sank deep. Water splashed on her face. She wanted to scream, but no one would listen. Lightning lit her tears. Thunder silenced her sobs. She was a prisoner of her own body, and now a prisoner of loneliness too. Then, out of the storm, came footsteps, different, heavier, slower. Not like her people. A shadow moved through the rain. A tall figure wearing strange armor approached. He was not one of them. He was human. The girl froze, fear mixing with curiosity. Humans were rare here. Few ever came to this world. He stopped a few feet away, his face wet from the storm, his eyes calm but filled with concern. For a moment, the storm seemed quieter. "Do you need help?" he asked softly. His voice was strange but gentle. The girl looked away, ashamed. She wanted to say no, to push him away like everyone else did, but her chair was stuck and her arms were too weak. The human knelt in the mud beside her. His hands were strong, yet careful. He pushed the wheel free and lifted the chair slightly, guiding it to firmer ground. The girl gasped. No one had touched her with kindness in years. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" Her voice cracked. The human gave a small smile. "Because you need it," he answered simply. She stared at him, not understanding. Her people never gave help without reason, and here was a stranger risking the storm for her. The rain beat harder, and the wind howled. The human removed his cloak and placed it around her shoulders. Warmth spread through her cold body. She tried to speak again, but words failed. For the first time, someone saw her, not her weakness, not her broken legs, but her. The storm raged on, but inside her chest, a spark of hope was born. She did not know this human. She did not know why he came, but she felt something different. The night was not only storm and sorrow anymore. It was the night she was no longer invisible, the night she was seen, and deep inside, she felt her life was about to change. The storm did not end that night. The rain kept falling. The wind screamed through the alien village. But under a broken roof near the edge of the forest, the human had brought the girl to shelter. The fire he made with strange tools gave warmth, and the crackle of the flames fought against the sound of thunder. The girl sat close to the fire, her chair pulled beside the glowing embers. She held the cloak tight around her shoulders, watching the stranger carefully. His eyes reflected the firelight. Calm and steady, he seemed strong, but not cruel like her people. He moved with care, his voice low and even. "You are cold," he said, handing her a small metal cup filled with warm water. She took it, her fingers trembling. For years no one had cared if she was cold or hungry. It was strange to accept such kindness. "Why are you here?" she asked at last. Her voice was quiet, nearly lost in the sound of the storm. The human looked at her for a moment, then answered, "I traveled to learn, to see worlds, to meet people. I was not looking for trouble, but then I saw you, and I could not walk away." His words sank deep into her mind. She was not used to such honesty. In her world, every action had cost, every gesture had hidden meaning. Yet this human spoke as if helping her was the simplest choice in the galaxy. Still, doubt filled her. Her people had left her many times before. They had told her she was worthless. She feared this human would do the same. "You do not know me," she said, her eyes falling to the floor. "I am nothing. I am broken. Why waste your time on me?" The human leaned forward, his voice steady. "You are not nothing. You are alive. You feel you deserve to be seen. That is enough reason for me." Her chest tightened. The firelight blurred as tears welled in her eyes. She had never heard such words before. Her own people never gave them, yet this stranger did. Outside, the storm grew stronger. Shadows moved among the trees. The human's head turned sharply, his hand resting on the strange weapon at his belt. He was alert now, watching, listening. The girl followed his gaze, her heart racing. She knew those shadows. They belonged to hunters from her tribe. They had followed, maybe to drag her back, maybe to punish her for being near the human. Her breath came fast, fear rising again. "They will come for me," she whispered. "They will not let me go." The human stood, his figure tall against the firelight. "Then they will have to face me first," he said, his voice firm. She looked at him in disbelief. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever said they would fight for her. Her heart beat faster, a strange warmth growing inside. The fire flickered. Shadows drew closer. The storm roared above. The human did not move from her side. His hand stayed ready on his weapon. His eyes locked on the darkness beyond the trees. The girl felt torn. Her mind told her to fear, to expect betrayal. But her heart whispered something new. Maybe this time was different. Maybe this human truly meant what he said. She gripped the cloak tighter, staring into the flames. The storm outside was wild, but inside she felt a small light of safety. For the first time, she thought perhaps she was not alone anymore. And as the shadows closed in, she realized a truth she had never dared believe. This human had chosen her, not out of duty, not out of pity, but because he wanted to. The night was far from over, and danger pressed close. But in the firelight, in the warmth of his presence, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt hope. The storm was still raging outside, thunder shaking the night sky, and the sound of rain beating on the broken roof never stopped. But inside the small shelter, the fire still burned, its glow soft against the stone walls. The girl sat close, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the flames, while the human stood near the entrance, his weapon ready. He had not spoken for some time, his eyes sharp, scanning the trees beyond the firelight. But the girl knew his silence was not cold. It was the silence of a protector. The thought made her chest feel heavy and strange. She had never known what protection truly meant. Her mind drifted back to memories she wished she could forget. She had once been part of the tribe, a child who wanted to run like the others, to climb, to fight, to be proud, but her legs had betrayed her. They grew weak as she grew older, until one day, she could not stand without pain. The tribe decided she was cursed, a weight that slowed them down. They told her she was nothing but shame. She remembered the day they left her behind for the first time. She had crawled through the dirt, crying, calling for her mother, but no one came, only the sound of laughter fading as the tribe walked away. That was the day she learned what it meant to be invisible. Her eyes burned with tears as she remembered. She whispered without meaning to, "They said I was broken. They said I was less than nothing." The human turned toward her. His expression softened. He lowered his weapon and knelt by her side. You are not broken," he said, his voice steady. "You are still here. You are alive. That makes you stronger than they will ever understand." The words struck her like lightning. She looked at him with wide eyes, part of her wanting to believe, part of her afraid to hope. He did not look away. His gaze was steady, not filled with pity but with truth. The fire crackled between them, and outside the shadows of hunters moved, their voices carried by the wind. The girl shivered, but not only from fear. For the first time, she felt something she had never felt before: value. She lowered her eyes again, whispering, "No one ever said that to me before." The human gave a small smile. "Then your people were blind. They could not see what was in front of them. But I do, and I will not turn away." The storm roared. Lightning lit the forest, and for a heartbeat, the hunter's shapes could be seen. Moving closer, the human stood once again, placing a hand on her shoulder before stepping back to the entrance. Her heart pounded. She should have been terrified, and yet, instead, she felt this strange warmth of trust. It was fragile like a spark in the rain, but it was there. She whispered softly, "Why would you fight for me? I am no one." His answer came strong and sure. Because you are someone, you deserve to be seen, and I will not let anyone take that away. The girl closed her eyes, her tears mixing with the sound of the storm. In her memories, she had always been weak, abandoned, unwanted, but in this moment, sitting by the fire with a human standing guard, she felt different. She did not know what the night would bring, or if they would survive the hunters, but one truth filled her heart. She was no longer invisible, not to him, not anymore, and deep inside, where loneliness had lived for so long, a fragile seed of hope began to grow. The storm outside was a wall of sound, the rain hammering the trees, the thunder breaking the night again and again. In the broken shelter, the fire burned low, shadows danced on the stone walls, and the girl sat silent, her hands gripping the edge of her chair. She could hear the hunters now, their harsh voices drifting through the storm. They were close, too close. The human stood at the entrance, his cloak soaked, his weapon ready. He did not move back, did not show fear. He only glanced at her once. And in that look, she saw a promise. He would not leave her. Not to the storm, not to the tribe. Her chest tightened. She had never trusted anyone before, and trust felt heavy, dangerous, like stepping into thin air. Yet here was a stranger, risking everything for her. She whispered, barely louder than the fire crackling. You should leave. They will kill you for helping me. The human's eyes stayed on the trees. If they try, then they will learn I do not scare easily. His voice was calm, like steel hidden under cloth. The shadows grew clearer as the hunters stepped from the forest, armored in bone and leather, their glowing eyes fixed on the shelter. There were 3 of them, tall and strong, weapons glinting wet in the rain. The leader raised his hand, his voice cutting through the storm. Give us the girl, human. She is nothing. She belongs to no one. Leave her, and you may live. The girl's heart sank. She had heard those words so many times. Useless, worthless, nothing. They burned like fire in her ears. She wanted to shrink, to disappear, but the human stepped forward instead. She belongs to herself, he said, his voice sharp, and you will not touch her. The hunters laughed, their voices cruel. You protect a broken one. The leader sneered. She cannot walk, she cannot fight. She is a burden even to pity. Why risk your life for her? The human did not waver. Because she is worth more than your whole tribe combined, he answered, and because no one deserves to be cast aside for weakness. The girl gasped. Her hands trembled. No one had ever spoken for her like this. No one had ever declared her worth. The firelight shimmered in her tears. The hunters did not laugh now. Their eyes narrowed, weapons lifted. The leader pointed his blade at the human. Then you die with her. The human drew his weapon, a bright beam of light sparking to life. He stood tall, his back shielding the girl. The storm howled louder, as if the world itself waited for the clash. The girl's heart pounded. She should have been afraid, but instead she felt something new, trust, real trust. The human was ready to face death, not for himself, but for her. Her voice broke the silence, weak but strong enough to reach them all. I am not nothing, she said. Her voice shook, but she forced the words, I am not worthless. The hunters turned their gaze to her, sneering, but the human smiled, not at the hunters, but at her, proud. She had spoken for herself, even when her voice trembled. The fire burned brighter, the rain lashed down, and the moments stretched long. The hunters prepared to strike, and the human lifted his weapon higher. The storm outside was fierce, but inside the girl felt a calm she had never known, a calm born of trust, of hope, and of a choice made not by her tribe, but by her heart. This was no longer only his fight, it was theirs together. The storm had not eased. The night was filled with rain and thunder, but the greater storm was inside the shelter. The human stood tall at the entrance, his weapon glowing with light. The 3 hunters faced him, their alien blades shining wet with water. Their eyes burned with cruelty. They wanted the girl, and they would not leave without her. The girl sat in her chair, her heart pounding like a drum. Fear clawed at her chest, but stronger than fear was the weight of choice. For the first time, someone had stayed, Someone had refused to abandon her. The human had chosen to stand. Now, she had to decide if she would remain silent or claim her own voice. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. "Move aside. Human, she is ours to discard. She is ours to shame. You fight for nothing." The human's voice cut through the storm, firm and steady. "She is not yours. She never was. She belongs only to herself, and I will not let you harm her." The hunters hissed in fury, circling. One leapt forward, striking fast. The human blocked, sparks flashing as blade met energy. The sound echoed like thunder. The girl gasped, clutching the cloak tight. The fight raged at the entrance, blades slashing, weapon humming. Rain spraying into the shelter. The human moved with skill, every step measured, every strike precise. He fought not just with strength, but with purpose. His shield arm deflected, his weapon pushed back. Yet there were three, and they pressed hard. Their blades came from every side, forcing him to defend again and again. The girl trembled, watching, fear rising. She wanted to scream, to beg him to run, but deep inside another feeling stirred. She remembered every word of scorn, every time she had been told she was nothing, every time she was left behind. But now she saw a man who refused to let those words define her. His fight was proof of her worth, and she could no longer stay silent. Her voice cut through the clash. "Stop," she cried. Her hands shook, but her eyes burned. "I am not broken. I am not less. I am more than you ever saw." The hunters hesitated for a breath, surprised by her defiance. The human seized that moment, striking with force. His weapon flashed bright, pushing two hunters back into the rain. The third staggered, snarling. The leader spat. "Your words mean nothing, cripple. You are still weak." Her tears mixed with the rain dripping from the roof, but her voice did not break. "Weakness is not shame. Cruelty is, you cast me out because I was different, but he stayed. He chose me. That makes me stronger than you will ever be." The human's heart pounded at her words. He felt her courage like fire behind him. His strike grew sharper, his defense stronger. The hunters faltered. For the first time, they looked uncertain. The storm howled louder. Lightning split the sky. The human stood firm, his figure tall against the firelight. The girl's voice carried in the thunder, not just to the hunters, but to herself. For the first time, she believed her own worth. The fight was not over. The hunters still circled, ready to strike again. But something had changed. They no longer faced only one. They faced two souls bound by trust, by defiance, by hope. The human glanced back once. Their eyes met, and she nodded. Her silent promise gave him strength. He was not alone. She was not alone. The night raged on, two worlds colliding in one small shelter, and in the center of it stood a human and a girl once cast aside, ready to fight not only for life, but for dignity. The storm raged harder than ever. Lightning tore open the sky, and rain hammered down like endless arrows. The human and the three hunters clashed at the edge of the shelter, blades flashing, sparks bursting with every strike. The girl sat behind them, her chest heavy with fear, yet her heart stronger than it had ever been. The hunters were fierce, moving fast, striking from every side. Their weapons glowed with deadly light. One lunged forward, another swung wide. But the human blocked both, his arms straining, his boots sinking into the muddy ground. He gritted his teeth, holding firm. His fight was not only for survival, it was for her. The girl's voice echoed in her mind, the words she had spoken against her tribe. "I am not broken." She felt them again, this time not as fragile hope, but as burning truth. Her people had left her, had shamed her, but this human had stood when all others turned away. She would not let fear silence her anymore. The leader of the hunters sneered, his voice sharp over the thunder. "You waste your strength, human. She is nothing. She will always be nothing." He struck with fury, but the human met his blade, sparks flying bright. "No," the human growled, pushing back with sudden force. "She is everything you are not. She is brave. She is strong. She is more than you ever deserved." His words carried like thunder itself. The girl gasped. Her hands clutched the arms of her chair. Her tears fell, not from weakness, but from a storm of pride. For the first time, someone shouted her worth into the night, and she believed every word. The hunters pressed again, but cracks showed in their fury. The human moved with determination, his strike sharper, his defense like stone. He was not fighting alone anymore. Her courage gave him power. The girl's eyes darted to the ground. She saw a loose stone near her chair. Her hands shook as she reached down. It was heavy, but she lifted it with trembling strength. When one hunter slipped close, she hurled it with all her might. The stone struck his shoulder. He staggered. The glow of his weapon faltered. The humans seized the opening, driving him back into the storm. The girl's chest heaved. She had never fought before, never dared, but tonight she did. Tonight she was part of the battle. The leader roared, his fury breaking. She defies us, cripple or not. She defies us. He charged. His blade swung with deadly speed. The human blocked, but the force drove him to his knees. Rain poured on his face. Mud splashed up his arms. The girl screamed, no. Her voice was raw, fierce, louder than the storm. She wheeled herself forward, placing her chair between them. Her body shook, but her eyes burned. If you want to kill him, you must go through me. The hunters froze. Even the leader hesitated. Her voice carried something they had never heard from her before, strength. The human rose beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. His voice was calm, filled with fire. We stand together. Lightning tore across the sky. Thunder roared. And in that instant, the hunters faltered. The leader stepped back, his face twisted with rage but shadowed with doubt. They had faced a girl they once called worthless, and now she stood unbroken. The fight was not yet finished, but the power had shifted. The hunters saw it, the girl felt it, and the human knew it. This was no longer a battle only for survival. It was a battle for dignity, for truth, for the right to be seen. And in that storm, the human and the outcast girl stood side by side, unshaken. The night was alive with thunder and fury. The hunters stood before them, weapons raised, but the storm inside the shelter had already changed. The girl was no longer silent, no longer hiding. She sat in her chair with fire in her eyes. The human at her side, their strength joined. The leader snarled, rain dripping from his jaw. His pride burned hotter than the storm. You think you are strong now, cripple. You think this human makes you more. You are still nothing. He charged with rage, his blade flashing bright. The human moved fast, blocking with his glowing weapon. Sparks showered the air. The clash of steel and light echoed through the storm. The other hunters closed in, their blades swinging low, but the girl shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She is not nothing. The human roared, his strike pushing the leader back. She is worth more than all of you. His blade slashed, knocking one hunter's weapon aside. The girl threw another stone with trembling arms. It struck the second hunter's chest, enough to break his focus. The human spun, his weapon glowing, driving both hunters into the mud. Their cries were swallowed by the thunder. Only the leader remained, his eyes burned with fury, but also with doubt. The human stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. You will not take her. Not now. Not ever. The leader hissed, she is a curse. The girl lifted her chin, her voice steady. I'm not a curse. I am hope. I'm strength. I am more than you will ever see. Her words were like lightning, splitting the night. The leader hesitated, his blade trembling. The storm crashed above them. The human pressed forward, forcing the leader back step by step, until at last, the leader stumbled into the rain. His eyes filled with hatred, but he did not strike again. He turned, snarling, and vanished into the storm. The other hunters followed, broken and silent. Silence filled the shelter. Only the rain remained. The human lowered his weapon, breathing hard. His body was tired, but his spirit was unbroken. He turned to the girl. She was crying, not from fear, but from release. You did it, he said softly, kneeling by her side. You stood, you fought, you showed them who you are. Her hand shook as she reached out, touching his arm. I was never seen, she whispered, but you saw me, you chose me when no one did. The fire flickered low, the storm began to fade, and the first light of dawn touched the sky. The girl looked up, and for the first time, she smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. The human smiled back. "You are not alone anymore," he said, his words wrapped around her like the cloak he had given before. She believed him. In his eyes, she saw no pity, only truth. For so long she had been shunned, cast away, invisible. But now, in the heart of the storm, she had found something greater than survival. She had found hope, dignity, and love. The clouds parted, golden light spilling over the wet earth. The storm was gone. The human stood, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Together, they looked at the dawn. She was no longer the outcast, no longer the broken one. She was herself, whole and strong, and beside her stood the one who chose her when the world turned away. Her story was not ending here, it was only beginning.